For decades, the retirement age has been going in one direction, up. Social Security's full retirement age has increased from 65 to 67, and some in Washington are arguing that it needs to go even higher. But here's what's crazy. Productivity has exploded over that same time frame. We produce far more with far fewer workers. And now, with AI and robotics about to supercharge productivity even more, we're being told the same thing. Work longer, save more, and retire later. I think we've got it backwards. If AI and robots can do more of the work, we don't need more years of labor from humans. We need fewer. The retirement age shouldn't be going up, it should be coming down. Today, I'm proposing something called UER, Universal Early Retirement. The idea is simple. Use AI's productivity gains to pull the retirement age down to 50. And UER could be funded by what Elon Musk refers to as physics-based money, Bitcoin. UER is not a government program. It's not universal basic income. It's better. It's a private sector solution that innovative and highly productive companies like Tesla could pioneer. Stick around and I'll show you how it works. I'm Michael, and this is Betirement. Before we get into Bitcoin and funding mechanisms, let's talk about the fundamental shift that makes universal early retirement possible. AI is about to change the supply and demand equation for labor. Goldman Sachs estimates that generative AI will raise labor productivity by 15% when fully adopted. And McKinsey projects that AI-powered automation could unlock $2.9 trillion of economic value in the U.S. alone by 2030. What does that mean in plain English? Fewer workers will be required to produce the same or greater economic output. And here's where it gets interesting. The U.S. labor force is about 160 million people. Of that, 35% are under the age of 35. Another 30% are between 35 and 50 years old. That's 104 million workers under the age of 50. So here's my question. If we need fewer total labor hours, who should be working those hours? I'd argue the answer is obvious, younger workers. And it's not just about economics, it's also about human psychology. Think about a 25-year-old just starting their career. They're full of energy and they want to prove themselves. They want to build skills, take on challenges, and earn respect. They want to contribute. Research in psychology is clear on this. Self-determination theory tells us that humans need three things to thrive: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Notice what's at the center: competence. The feeling that you're capable, that you can do things, and that you matter. Work, meaningful work, provides that. A PricewaterhouseCoopers study found that 83% of workers said finding meaning in their day-to-day work was their top priority. The Japanese concept of ikigai places work at the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Now imagine telling a 25-year-old, don't worry about that, the robots have it covered. Here's your universal basic income. Go find a hobby. That's not liberation. That's a recipe for an identity crisis. Young people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s need work, not just for the paycheck, but for the sense of purpose. They need the camaraderie, the challenge, the growth. But here's the flip side. How about somebody who's already done the work? Somebody who has spent 25 or 30 years contributing, building things, solving problems, training the next generation. For them, the equation is totally different. The 50-year-old has already proven their competence. They've built their identity through work, and they've contributed to society. When they step back, it's not an identity crisis, it's a graduation. There's a profound psychological difference between receiving money for doing nothing your whole life, UBI, and receiving a reward for decades of contribution, UER. So here's the universal early retirement proposition. Keep younger workers engaged with meaningful work. They need it, and the economy needs their energy and their innovation. But let workers at age 50 enjoy the freedom of retirement. They've earned it, and the productivity gains of AI mean they no longer need to work. The labor supply and demand equation works. Those under the age of 50 can meet the needs of the economy, and those over 50 get the freedom of retirement while they're still young enough to enjoy it. And now the question becomes, how do we fund UER? And this is where we need to talk about what Elon Musk has been saying, and I think he's got it half right and half wrong. Recently, the richest man in the world told you to stop saving for retirement. On the Moonshots podcast with Peter Diamandis, Elon Musk said, and I quote, "Don't worry about squirreling away money for retirement in 10 or 20 years. It won't matter." His reasoning? AI and robotics are about to create a supersonic tsunami of abundance. By 2030, he expects that AI will exceed the intelligence of all humans combined. Eventually, he expects that there'll be more humanoid robots on Earth than humans. The productivity gains, he said, would surpass what people possibly could think of as abundance. He said, if any of the things that we've said are true, saving for retirement will be irrelevant. Now, I actually agree with Musk's assessment. AI is going to dramatically transform productivity. The labor equation is changing. He's right about that. But here's where I disagree. His solution, or lack of one. Elon has been saying that AI and robotics would allow everybody to receive universal high income, his version of UBI on steroids. Diamandis challenged Elon about how this would work. How would people actually get the money in this post-work future? Would the government tax the profitable companies and then redistribute the money? Elon sort of dodged the question. He didn't have a ready answer. He pivoted back to say, don't worry about saving. Here's my problem with this. I think Musk is right that AI will create massive abundance. But abundance doesn't automatically mean that your bills get paid. Abundance doesn't provide you a home or healthcare or security. Someone has to figure out the mechanism. How does the wealth generated by AI flow to the regular people? Musk's implied answer seems to require some sort of government redistribution, tax the corporations, and give everybody money. But I think there's a better way, a way that doesn't require trusting the government to get it right, a way that keeps the solution in the private sector, where innovation actually happens. What if employers, starting with visionary companies like Tesla, funded universal early retirement for their employees? Not through a government program like Social Security, but through a company-led savings plan that's backed by Bitcoin that enables every employee to retire at age 50. That's universal early retirement. It solves the problem that Elon Musk has identified, but it doesn't require government redistribution of money. Universal early retirement is built on two compounding forces, and here's the beautiful part. Elon Musk has spoken positively about both of them. Force number one, AI and robotics driving exponential productivity gains. We've already covered this. The productivity gains are real, they're measurable, and they're compounding. Companies that have adopted AI are already seeing higher growth. They've seen 9.5% more sales growth over a 5-year period, according to MIT research. This is the force that makes early retirement possible. Fewer workers needed mean that workers can retire earlier. Which brings me to force number two. Sound money preserving and growing purchasing power over time. And this is where Bitcoin comes in. And Elon Musk has commented on this force as well. In November of 2025, Elon Musk said something remarkable on a podcast with Nikhil Kamath. He called Bitcoin a fundamental physics-based currency. He said energy is the true currency. This is why I say Bitcoin is based on energy. You can't legislate energy. You can't pass a law and suddenly have a lot of energy. Think about what he's saying. Unlike fiat currencies that governments can print at will, Bitcoin is tied to physical reality. It requires real energy, real computation, real work to create, and it has an ultimate supply cap of 21 million Bitcoins. In October 2025, Elon posted on X, "You can fake fiat currency. Every government in history has done so, but it is impossible to fake energy." This is huge because here's the problem with government-run programs like Universal Basic Income or Universal High Income. They're funded by money printing or taxation, both of which are subject to political whims. What happens when the next administration decides to cut the program? What happens when inflation erodes the value of your government check? You're dependent on politicians to protect your income and your retirement. But Bitcoin's supply is fixed. There will only ever be 21 million coins, ever. And because it's tied to energy, or to physics, as Musk says, it can't be debased by politicians. And here's where it gets really interesting. Bitcoin doesn't just preserve value, it grows in value over time. According to the Bitcoin power law developed by astrophysicist Giovanni Santostasi, Bitcoin's price has followed a predictable mathematical trajectory over time. When you plot Bitcoin's price on a log-log scale, it forms a straight line, just like many natural phenomena in physics. The model has held for 15 years, and it projects that Bitcoin could reach a price of $1 million by 2033. So here's the compound effect. AI produces the productivity gains that make early retirement possible. And Bitcoin preserves and grows the savings that can fund the early retirement. Put them together and you have something very powerful, a private sector mechanism for universal early retirement that doesn't require a government program. Let me lay out exactly how universal early retirement would work. The core idea is that employers would purchase and earmark a certain amount of Bitcoin for each employee, such that that Bitcoin is worth $3 million in today's purchasing power when the employee turns 50. Using the Bitcoin power law, you can project what Bitcoin might be worth in any future date. For a 25-year-old employee, their retirement is 25 years away. So the employer would calculate, using the power law and projections for inflation, on how much Bitcoin to buy and earmark for that employee, so that at the time of retirement, that employee would have a retirement fund of $3 million valued in today's dollars. Here's why this works better than UBI or UHI. First, it's funded by productivity gains, not taxes. Companies benefiting from AI productivity gains invest a portion of those gains into the employee Bitcoin retirement accounts. It's profit sharing for the age of AI, not wealth distribution by government mandate. And it will help good companies attract the best employees. Second, the asset appreciates while fiat currencies depreciate. Government UBI payments would lose purchasing power to inflation every single year. Bitcoin, if the power law continues to hold, dramatically outpaces inflation. Your retirement fund isn't just preserving purchasing power, it's growing it. Third, it's tied to physics, not politics. This is Elon Musk's point. Bitcoin can't be inflated away by government decisions. The rules are set by mathematics and energy, not by politicians and central bankers. No future Congress can vote to cut your retirement. Fourth, you've earned it. Unlike UBI, which gives everybody money regardless of contribution, UER rewards work. You put in your years, you've contributed, now you're free. This is what Elon Musk should be proposing instead of universal high income funded by something. Not trust that abundance will provide, but a specific, fundable, physics-based retirement system. And Elon Musk is uniquely positioned to lead the way on this. In January 1914, Henry Ford did something that seemed insane at the time. He announced that Ford Motor Company would pay its workers $5 a day, double the standard factory wage. Newspapers went crazy, other industrialists thought he lost his mind, and Wall Street predicted disaster for the company. But Ford understood something his critics didn't. The assembly line had made his workers dramatically more productive. They were building Model Ts in 93 minutes instead of 12 hours, but the work was hard and tedious, and employee turnover was 370%. Ford's insight was this: when productivity increases dramatically, the gains should flow to the workers, not just to the shareholders. The $5 a day wasn't charity, it was strategic. It reduced turnover and attracted better workers. And the workers were now able to afford the vehicles that they were producing. And it worked. Ford's profits doubled within 2 years. Other companies followed suit, and the American middle class was born. Now look at where we are today. AI is doing to knowledge work what the assembly line did to manufacturing. Productivity is exploding, and Tesla and SpaceX are two companies that are leading the way on this transformation. Musk himself has said that AI will eventually do half or more of white-collar jobs, and he's building the Optimus robot, which he predicts will one day outnumber humans. So here's my challenge to Elon Musk. You've identified the problem. AI is going to transform work. And you've identified a key insight, that Bitcoin is tied to physics and energy, making it a fundamental currency. You've even said that people don't need to save for retirement because abundance is coming. So put it together. Announce a universal early retirement program for your SpaceX and Tesla employees so that they can retire at age 50. Don't wait for the government to figure out universal high income. Don't rely on politicians to redistribute AI's gains fairly. You could do it yourself, and you could lead the private sector into the new UER era. Headlines would explode just like they did for Henry Ford in 1914. And just like Ford created a new pool of customers and transformed the American economy, You'd create a new model for how companies share the AI productivity gains with their workers. That's the $5 a day moment for the AI age. That's universal early retirement. Let me be clear about why I believe UER is better than Elon Musk's universal high income concept. UHI requires massive government involvement. Someone needs to tax the AI-driven profits. Someone needs to decide how much everybody gets. Somebody has to administer those payments. And that someone is the government. History tells us how that goes. Programs get politicized, benefits get cut, inflation erodes purchasing power, and you become more and more dependent on the government. UER is different. It's a private sector solution, and companies can choose whether or not to participate. Employees earn their allocation through work and loyalty to the company. And Bitcoin holds value outside of government control. No politician can vote to cut your Bitcoin, and no central bank can inflate it away. No future administration can decide that you don't deserve it anymore. And here's the other thing. UER preserves the dignity of work. And Musk himself is worried about this. On the Moonshots podcast, he asked, if you actually get all the stuff you want, is that actually the future you want? Because it means your job won't matter. He's right to worry. Giving 25-year-olds money to sit at home is a recipe for despair. But UER solves this. Young people work. They contribute. They build identity and purpose through meaningful work. And then at 50, they get to graduate into the freedom they've earned. That's not a handout. That's a reward. Let me bring it all together. AI and robotics are going to transform the labor equation. Fewer workers will be needed to produce the same output. That's not just speculation. That's mainstream economic forecasting. The question is, what do we do with this reality? Elon Musk says, stop saving for retirement. Some future abundance will take care of it. Maybe the government will redistribute AI's gains through universal high income. I'm proposing something different, something concrete, and something that doesn't require trusting the politicians to get it right. Universal early retirement. Keep young workers engaged with meaningful work. They need it, and the economy will benefit from their energy. Let workers retire at age 50 with $3 million in Bitcoin. They've earned it, and AI means they no longer need to work. Fund it through the private sector and protect it with physics-based money. Make it a reward for years of contribution, not a handout for existence. Elon, if you're watching, you've said that Bitcoin is based on energy. You've said that we should no longer need to save for retirement, and you've said that AI will bring on an age of abundance. Prove it. Don't wait for the government. Lead the way. Announce that SpaceX and Tesla will adopt universal early retirement. You can be the Henry Ford of the AI age. What do you think? Could universal early retirement actually work? Is it better than universal high income? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed to Betirement, now's the time. I'm putting out similar content every single week.